Hi, this is Foreigner in the Philippines. Welcome. Well, this is not quite late night, but late night enough because we go to bed early. So I'm going to call it a late night meandering. Now, one of the things that interests me as I get older, and I am getting older, some people seem obsessed with the idea of age, so they keep asking me, well, how old are you? Well, I'm 77. Okay, now, I'm looking around. The world seems to be the same as it was before. So, having released that vitally important information, I'm wondering why. Well, let's leave that alone. What I have noticed when we've looked at the statistics on our channel, we find that one very popular age group for what the videos reach is between, I think, 50 and 65. And apparently people of 50 and 65 find our videos interesting or entertaining or worth watching. Now, a lot of people write to me and say that one of the things that they like is that the videos are informative. Well, they're not always informative about great informational discoveries, but some of the things that I've discovered and some of the things that I've learned from my wife, I like to share. I'm not telling anyone how to live, but I am making an observation which I would like to reveal. And someone said the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and that's very true. That's the kind of thing that my mom would have said. So you can use what you hear from any source or not. And sometimes what we hear doesn't please our sense of where we are, and so we reject it. Sometimes we reject things that we should never reject. Ask any parent who's tried to tell their child what to what to do to live a correct life, and they'll tell you, that's right, sometimes they don't listen. So, I think actually it was George Burns, one of my favourite characters. I always give out the quote that I like the most, which I'm going to repeat, and that was when he was asked, how do you get through life so easily and apparently happily? And he said, I try to live each day with a minimum amount of aggravation. Now, he made a lot of observations about life, and one of the ones that he made a lot of sense to me as a parent was, he said, it's what every parent dreams of. It's the phone call that they all dream of, and it comes from one of their children. And the child says, hey, Dad, I'm sorry, you were absolutely right. And then he makes the observation, it will never happen. So here we are, and I'm imparting some information that I found is useful. Now, as I've gotten older, I've found that I'm not as young as I used to be. Is that an obvious observation? Yes, it is, but to come to terms with it is quite another thing. For a long time, I used to look at still group photographs, and wonder why someone had inserted this old man in the picture where I used to be. And then when I finally came to terms with it, I realized it was me. The other shock that you get as you get older is walking towards a store window and seeing this elderly person walking towards the store window that you happen to be walking towards, and in one fleeting moment you actually don't recognize yourself. What are the other things? Well, sometimes it's an incredible balancing feat getting my first foot in my shorts. Getting out of them is quite another thing, because you get your foot caught, you get everything caught, and sometimes you can, if you're not careful, land on your rear end. Well, these are all things which are fairly obvious, but will hit you unpleasantly when you reach that point. Someone said to me they enjoyed, and this is a person who was greatly overweight, quite infirm, was on drugs, had been on a narcotic-based drug for quite a number of years, had lost a lot of his mobility, and he was in his 80s. So good on him that he managed to get to that age. What I noticed was what he told me. He said, I had great health until I reached 70. And then he said it all went to hell in a basket. So what happens is that as you get older, you let go of certain things which were your birthright, and you give in to age. Now, I know that there are various philosophical teachings like the Tao or the Tao, whichever you... I believe the hip way of calling it is the Tao. But whenever I call it the Tao, somebody says, what, you mean the Tao? So, the Tao or the Tao, or the Tao or the Tao. It says, it's a foolish man that tries to keep up with his sons as they walk, or lift, or run, or jump. Be your age. Well, I'm trying. Okay, so, one of the things about getting older is that you can be any age you want. Somebody said to me, I'm looking forward to getting old. I can be an old man. I can be a cranky old man. I can lose my temper. I can get annoyed. I can vent. I can burp. And I can fart. And nobody will think any different of it. Well, yeah, well, he's a cranky old man. So I won't be doing any, well, most of those things. I won't be doing any burping. And I certainly won't be doing any farting. But then you wouldn't know, would you? But anyway, you could have a look at the books behind me as the leaves begin to curl. You might say, hey, he farted and he promised he wasn't going to do it. Well, until video is enhanced even more to where you actually get the smell of everything, I'm safe. So, what am I going to deal with that's of interest to anyone? I often ask myself that question, okay? Right, here's what I have planned on doing, and I have made a 100-day challenge to myself. Now, if you want to join me on this 100-day challenge, you may, and I'll explain how I'm going to approach it, and then you can decide for yourself whether you are going to approach it that way too. Now, I did do something that I've never ever thought of doing before. I went to the doctors, and I had the doctor, well, I should mention that we were there with Desiree. So once the doctor finished with Desiree, I said, can you see me? What can I do for you? Well, I'm only about 145 pounds, which is give or take a pound or two that I was when I was 18 years old. I have a heart rate of 60 per minute, resting. It used to be a lot better. It used to, at times, be 44. It's been as low as 44, mostly around 50. So, did good on that. Now, it's now 60. And apparently, haven't remembered the figures, but my blood sugar is normal. That's the first time that word was ever applied to me, I can tell you. And let me see, my blood sugar was normal and my blood pressure was normal. So I'm doing good. So now I asked him, so I'm okay, I'm in the clear for doing some exercise. Yes, you are. Just take it easy at first, old man. So I said, well, I'm going to do that. Why would I think that I needed suddenly to start doing exercise? Now, what has happened to me over the last 3 years happens to a lot of people, both men and women, when they get to their 70s. Now, all my life I've been athletic. I haven't really abused myself, I don't think. Never drank hardly at all. I've never smoked, and I've never done street drugs. In fact, I have an aversion to even doing prescription drugs. So I stay away from doctors, they're for sick people. Well, a lot of people will be saying, no, that's what's kept me alive, and I congratulate you and I respect your viewpoint. Now, what's happened in the last 3 years that has caused me to realize I need to take some action. I've had 3, to me, quite big injuries. Now, I've gone through my life with very few injuries, so I've been kind of spoiled on that too. Now, I had a little accident at the gym where I strained my back and pinched a nerve in the sciatic nerve, which can be extremely painful, and I had to go to therapy for quite a time. Now, all of those people who say don't go to a Filipino doctor, okay, I understand, and you fall into the expat Filipinos can't do anything right category for me, but that's just for me. Now, I went to see a Filipino doctor and I told him that I'm an American. The thing is, there's no point in you can tell somebody that you're an aspidestra in the Philippines, but they'll look at you, and if you're white, you're American, for God's sake. So, I'm from America, I'm an American citizen. He said, you don't talk like an American. I said, no, that's because I'm British. So, we got that sorted out. Now, I hadn't been able to walk for, I don't know, it must have been a month or 2 months. And then finally, in desperation, I go to see a Filipino doctor, and I tell him, on the advice of various American friends still in America and enjoying what they think of as the finest medical facility in the world. That's what they believe. So I go with some trepidation, determined to educate this doctor that I was going to see, because, damn it, I'm American. So I tell him, I think I need a cortisone injection because I've hurt my back and the pain is really bad. So he talks to me and for a little while, and then he realizes and says, yes, you've pinched a nerve, a sciatic nerve, apparently, and that's what's causing the pain. Well, okay, so can I have the cortisone injection, which will take away all the pain, and I will dance away from here like, I don't know, like Fred Astaire. Hope I can sing better than him, by the way. But anyway, he said, well, I'm not really very keen on giving you a cortisone injection. What is this ignorant doctor going to try and tell me about cortisone injections? And why would that be, sir? I asked him. He said, because it's extremely invasive, it's painful. He got me at painful. I said, well, what do you suggest? Well, he said, I'll send you along to my colleague who has a physiotherapy clinic in San Fernando, and he will fix you up. So he prescribed some anti-inflammatory drugs, which I hated taking, but which I took because they helped to relieve some of the pain, and I went along to the physiotherapy. Anyway, I won't make this a video about physical therapy. What I will tell you is that in, I think, 2 to 3 weeks of going 3 times a week, they had me fixed up without any injections, only on the anti-inflammatory drugs, and I limped up the 3 flights of stairs to the clinic when I first got there in great pain, and the treatment was not always pleasant. I used to call them the torture chamber crew, and took their photograph. Wonderful guys who just helped me immensely. But 3 weeks later, I didn't dance down the stairs like Fred Astaire, but then I never could dance like Fred Astaire anyway, so I was not complaining. I was out of pain, mobile as ever, and I was doing great. I got back into walking, and I was doing good very soon. Now, when I came to Bohol, I actually started building my own house, so you can guess that I was in pretty good shape. So during one particular place where I was cutting plywood, and I had the overhang of the plywood on the small deck that I had built, and I overbalanced it. This is a little bit like the guy who cuts the limb of the tree off sitting on the wrong side of it. You know, I overbalanced, and it tipped me off as if I was on a slide, and I broke my collarbone. Now, when you break your collarbone, you automatically start thinking in your Western ways, and you think that you already know just what to be done. I didn't want to believe that my collarbone was broken, and I certainly didn't want to go along to a hospital where they would start putting pins in me and operating. So I went to what I laughingly but not disrespectfully called one of the witch doctors. These are actually therapists that serve the community here in the Philippines, and they are usually pretty good at massage and manipulating and relieving pain in strained muscles, and they're pretty good at that. Now, the little old lady that I went to said that no, you haven't broken your collarbone. It's not broken. So she did some manipulation. The first one was agonizing, excruciating pain, but the second one didn't seem so bad. It was a lot gentler. And then she said, when she saw me strap myself up afterwards with Beth's help, she said, why is he doing that? And as far as I always knew, a broken collarbone nowadays, what can they set? They don't put you in a huge plaster cast. They just immobilize you, and that's what Beth told her. So she said, no, tell him not to do that, tell him to exercise. And I thought, what madness is this? I'm exercising and I got a broken collarbone, for heaven's sake. I could just imagine it grinding and squeaking against the other broken bits while I'm supposed to be exercising in agony. Well, I'm no hero, but just after seeing that old lady, I went to see my Aussie friend Brian, who lived about 200 yards away from the old lady, and I told him what the old lady had said, and Brian said, well, all I know is that in Oz, when those footballers who are getting paid a great deal of money break a collarbone, they're out for about 2 weeks. I said, well, how can they do that? He said, by exercising. He said, of course they have $1 million therapists handling them as well, so it probably might take a little bit longer for you, but don't sit around, get out and do stuff, you know, and exercise. So I devised some exercises and I got over it. But it meant being out of action for, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks, I think it was. And all of this tended to make me slow down. And that's the point that I'm trying to get to in a very long-winded way. Like somebody said, oh God, he's not doing another War and Peace, is he? So anyway, on to War and Peace. I've started taking things a lot easier since then. Then we started to have some work done. Then we started into our YouTube channel, which has proved to be pretty well 24/7. Irrespective of whatever people may think, when we're making videos, we are making videos. So I'm leading a more sedentary, if no less exciting life. It's just different. But I can see that muscles are atrophying, or as Dr. C said, atrophying. Who knows which is the right one for that. But the muscles are getting smaller, and I need to do something about it. Now here's what my 100-day challenge is. That's my 100-day challenge. And over 100 days I want to recoup as much as possible the level of fitness that I enjoyed before I left Florida. So before I left Florida, I was eating very, very well, and I was exercising a lot. And back then I could do 100 push-ups. Now, believe it or not, that's what I could do, even at my age just 3 years ago. And what I think is I would like to get back to that, and I think that there are lots of considerations why you shouldn't do that, mainly from doctors and mainly from other people who don't want you to do it because, well, maybe they might have to do it then. So there'll be a lot of opposition, you know. Are you crazy at your age? Well, actually I am crazy at my age. Is there a better age to be crazy than the one you're at? I don't think so. So I'm going to set up a system for me, which I think will get me back to being able to do what I was able to do back then. Just over 3 years ago, when I hurt my sciatic nerve, I was able to stand up to eight rounds in the ring on the boxing gloves, not hitting anybody or being hit myself, but hitting on the pads. Extremely strenuous. Certainly by the 5th or the 6th round I would have paid the man to let me go home, but I was there to do 8, and I did my 8, and I was pretty fit. So I want to get back to doing that, and I've got some fairly simple, straightforward exercises, and I'm going to share those with you when we meet again. So this is number 1 episode, installment, whichever you want to call it. Unlike all of the other videos, which are just titles, we are going to number these keep fit or get back to fit episodes or videos, so that you can keep track of them. And if you want to do the 100-day challenge, look at number 2, and I will outline what my plan is. Now, I'm not going to do any upfront getting ready, get fit, so I won't embarrass myself moves. What you will see is exactly what happened. I'll be as open and transparent as on that as I've tried to be on everything else. In other words, I know that I'm in for a big shock. I know that that everything is against someone who is of advancing years, because they've gradually, imperceptibly, over years and years, have let go of being fit. This is a fact, even though there are really, really stunning looking 80 and 90-year-old people who are taking product A and product B, or going in for the Acme abs machine. There are those people who are doing amazingly well, but then there's you and me, and you and me are, maybe if you're around my age, maybe you're not doing as well as you used to do, and you used to be pretty fit. Well, I used to be pretty fit, and I'd like to be back to feeling a lot stronger, and I'm going to do that because the alternative is a very, very sad one, believe me. The more that you let it go, the more it will go. And I'm going to do some demonstrations on how it will be when you start back. And how am I going to do that? Well, in the movie As Good As It Gets, Jack Nicholson said, had it said about him by, I think, Greg Kinnear, I think his name was Greg Kinnear. He said, the biggest thing you have going for you is your willingness to humiliate yourself. Well, I'll be willing to humiliate myself by showing you what really happens when you've been out of action for a long time and then you get down and try to do some push-ups. So that's a promise, and I won't do any preliminary things so that I can say, no, I never was as bad as that. However you see me being as bad as is as bad as it is. Okay, so this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Join me on number 2, and if you wish, you can start the 100-day challenge with me. Bye for now.